Not even the cameras anticipated this. Mendeecees stood up, departed, and didn't turn around in a moment that left the entire set motionless and spectators clutching their pearls. All due to a threat that was so audacious and scathing that it had the potential to destroy the entire cast. Can you guess from whom it originated? Everyone gasped when Mena, the actual queen of chaos, dropped a verbal bombshell. The rumors began to circulate before the video even aired. Despite the producer's best efforts, behind the scenes whispers quickly spread. Was it true that Erica threatened to reveal secrets that would ruin relationships? Was she joking? Or did? She'll mean every spooky word. And why did Mendeecees, who is often cool under pressure, finally lose it? Yandi sat dumbfounded as tensions boiled over on the set. In a matter of seconds, the energy changed from playful to deadly, and Scrappy appeared torn. Fans are still in shock and want explanations. What was it that Erica said that made Mendeecees lose it? And is this the start of their delicate piece's demise? The entire narrative will leave you speechless, so stay right here. The cameras were rolling. It was all too genuine. Let's dissect everything. As she counted down the seconds till he lost it all, Mendeecees sat at the edge of the couch, their jaws clenched and their gaze focused on the floor. Not even the cameras were meant to be rolling. However, the moment Erica unexpectedly arrived, production realized something was going on. Like warning shots, stilettos clack against the hardwood. She had a certain kind of fire in her walk that, even before she spoke, shouted trouble. You could feel the tension slicing through the room like shattered glass when she entered and met Mendeecees' gaze. While discussing a pop-up store event with Bambi across the room, Yandi saw Mendeecees tense up. His entire attitude altered. 1 minute at ease, the next stiff, about to blow up. It appeared as though Scrappy, who was seated between them, wanted to vanish into the couch. He was aware of Erica's unexpected arrival. Indicated that someone was going to experience an emotional breakdown. He wasn't mistaken either. A dot. Erica didn't blink, smile, or say hello. She approached Mendeecees directly, leaned in close enough to shatter his peace, and uttered a sentence that reverberated. When secrets become weary of being buried, do you suppose they don't come out? Everyone pivoted. The boom mic above them hummed. As the silence dropped so quickly, Mendeecees didn't even bat an eye, but the way his hands on his knees curled into fists. It says it everything. Yandi got to her feet instantly, her eyes keen. What is the intended meaning of that? It was disbelief, rather than fear, that caused her voice to crack. Erica simply grinned, that arrogant expression on her face, as if she knew she had a grenade in her hand and was waiting for the right opportunity to release the pin. Erica remarked, as she circled Yandi like a lioness. Perhaps there are other women in Scrappy's life who have been deceiving him? We may have underestimated the amount of dirt that some of these family males received. Already perspiring, Scrappy leaned forward. Erica, don't bring me into this. Avoid tampering with my name. She turned back to Mendeecees and said, I'm not being savage, but you might want to speak to your wife before someone else does. Like a blade, she dropped that line and took a step back. Yandi's gaze strayed to Mendeecees, but he averted his gaze, his breathing more labored and his jaw further clenched. What on earth are you discussing? Candy demanded, now raising her voice. What is false? What filth? Either say it or quit acting like a kid. Bambi attempted to intervene. It's in the time, girl. Yundin quickly silenced her, though. No, she had. Best speak from the heart if she has anything to say about my spouse. Erica's gaze flickered. Now, let's discuss who was having an affair with a Jerseyan just before he was imprisoned. Let's discuss burner phones, hotel rooms, and a name that begins with the letter S after a break. She struck out. You think I don't know who you really married? Mindy asked, rising slowly and ponderously, as if the weight of her words had finally caused him to lose his temper. Snarled. "You're out of line," and continued past Scrappy, Jandy, and the cameras. "I'm done with this." She called after him, "Go ahead and walk out," saying Erica wasn't done. Everyone stood in stunned silence, unable to speak because, for the first time, it felt like this wasn't just a reality show moment. This was something real, raw, and dangerous. Jean Duy was frozen, and she didn't even chase him. Truth got legs, baby. It'll catch up. He then vanished down the hallway, the door slamming behind him with enough force to rattle the entire set. "You're disgusting," she yelled at Erica, crossing her arms and letting her chest rise and fall as if she were struggling to contain a scream. "Coming here and trying to destroy families for attention." Erica laughed icily and replied, "Oh, honey, I didn't destroy anything. When the light came on, I simply let the roaches scatter. We were supposed to be shooting a mature conversation, not World War II, but nobody was paying attention." The damage was already done, and Scrappy got up and at last attempted to regain some sanity. "Yo, this is crazy." Yandui turned to the producers and said, "Cut the cameras. Not doing this circus, not today." But they didn't cut. Not yet. Because even they knew the fallout from this would be too explosive to miss. Scrappy was pushed aside by Bambi, who whispered, "Did you know anything about this?" Scrappy was dejected. "No, I mean, Erica is always speaking carelessly, but it seemed like she had been suppressing that one because it was personal, eh?" "And the way meanies left," Bambi nodded. "Yeah, it wasn't television. That individual was aware that he had been captured." Meanwhile, Yandy grabbed her bag and stormed out the side door. Her mic pack still clipped on, catching her every breath as she muttered, "This is some bullshit. Their constant goal is to destroy the Black family." Always, when one of the producers asked Erica if she wanted to sit, she remained unmoved and continued to drink water as if she hadn't just set fire to every room of the house. "This is a confessional, baby," she said with a smile. "Allow them to play the video." Even he didn't seem persuaded. His phone buzzed, and he looked down too. "See a text from an unknown number? Jersey remembers. You should have come clean when you had the chance." Mendeecees was pacing the parking lot outside, talking to himself, saying she doesn't know anything. She's bluffing. She's got to be bluffing. He shook his hands and stared at the screen, thinking that whatever Erica was talking about wasn't. Just some small-time drama. She had receipts, or at least made it look like she did, and perception was everything in this world. Back inside, the cast was split. Some didn't know what to think. Some believed Erica, and some just wanted to leave before the next bomb dropped. But there was no denying that something real had broken that day, and it wasn't going to be easy. To fix Men stayed outside for what seemed like hours, even though it had only been minutes. He leaned against the black SUV, staring at nothing, replaying every word Erica had said. His mind raced, not just with panic, but with rage. Who had told her? Who had given her the ammunition to blow his life up in front of everyone like that? And more importantly, was she bluffing? Or did she really know something she shouldn't? His phone buzzed again, the same unknown number, but this time the photo was blurry, taken from a distance, but it was him years ago. Hat pulled low, entering a hotel lobby. He saw a woman with curly brown hair standing next to him. The crew was buzzing, and some cast members began congregating near the windows, peering through the blinds like children watching a storm brewing outside. Scrappy shook his head, saying, "This isn't even TV anymore. It's just real life crumbling on camera." Erica returned to the main room and saw everyone watching the windows. She tilted her head, thinking, "What? We're all in a soap opera now." Bambi looked at her sharply and said, "Girl, you know that what you did out there was foul." "Oh, please." Erica rolled her eyes and said, "I told the truth. I'm sorry if the truth hurts your fantasy version of them. You didn't do it to help. And that's the difference between honesty and malice," Bambi said, and Erica simply smirked and left. Mendeecees sat down on the curb outside. "I should have told you," he finally said, "and I was scared. I thought if I said it, I'd lose you." "You might still lose me," she said, "because now I don't know if I can trust you." Yandi stood a few feet away, arms crossed, eyes red, but no more tears. The silence between them was loud. He looked up at her, pain etched in his face. I never touched her again. I never looked back. Everything I gave after that was for you. We're supposed to set up for the next scene in 20 minutes. It's too good to roll. Yandi gave him a look so cold that he backed away without saying another word. They stood there for a long time, not talking, just letting the silence say what they are. Both C. ODN single quotes T. Dot. I swear. She shook her head. Not promises, not rehearsed speeches. I need time. He nodded slowly. I'll wait. You better be sure about what you said today, because if you're wrong and you've just wrecked their whole marriage for a headline, that karma is going to hit you hard. Erica met her eyes. I didn't make him cheat. I just refused to pretend he was a saint. Bambi shook her head. Erica was still holding court inside, acting as if nothing had happened, but the atmosphere had changed. Everyone knew she had crossed a line, and cracks were showing through her confident armor. You are and always have been the chaos dealer. When filming resumed later that night, the producers attempted to change the atmosphere, but nothing was the same. Mendeecees came back to the set, silent and aloof. Yandi didn't appear at all. And Erica laughed through her scenes as if she already knew the next plot twist. However, behind the scenes, alliances were changing. Trust was eroding, and the lines of war had been drawn, because once a threat is made, once a truth is revealed, it cannot be undone. The next morning was like walking into the aftermath of a tornado. The set was quiet, but not calm, tense, as if everyone was holding their breath, waiting to see who would blow up next. No one really knew if Yandi would return, as her phone had gone straight to voicemail all night, and the group chat was dry. The producer even seemed uneasy, whispering about whether they would have to pivot the entire episode or continue filming. The Mendeecees arrived just before noon, wearing all black sunglasses despite the dim studio lights. He didn't say much, just nodded at the crew and walked straight to his trailer. He was obviously not there for the drama, but rather because he needed to be like a man trying to face something he had been avoiding for years in the makeup room. Erica was already sitting in the chair, drinking her smoothie as if she hadn't just thrown a grenade into someone's marriage. And she was reading through the comments on her most recent posts, with some fans applauding her for revealing the truth, and others criticizing her for being messy. However, Erica didn't bat an eye. She thrived on this chaos. It was her oxygen. Bambi entered behind her and didn't even sit down before speaking. Bambi crossed her arms and said, "No, you're not. Guilty of honesty. You're guilty of timing. You waited until the cameras were rolling. You waited until Yandi had a mic on. That wasn't the truth. That was a performance." Erica looked at her reflection in the mirror and said, "Okay, I'm proud of telling the truth. That's a crime now? I guess I'm guilty. And I'm not here to protect anyone's illusion." Bambi moved closer. "You're not here to protect anyone, period. You're here to stir up drama so you stay relevant." Double quotes. Erica stood up slowly. "I waited because I knew that if I said it off camera, it would be swept under the rug like everything else. And you're here to be in the background of somebody else's storyline. We all have our roles, Bambi. Don't be mad at me for playing mine better." Producers decided to proceed with a group scene of Mendeecees, Scrappy, and Kirk. The idea was to keep things light and possibly shift the focus to business, but Mendeecees wasn't in the mood for distractions. Scrappy tried to start the conversation by saying, "Yo, I was thinking we do a pop-up event next weekend. Get the fellas together, show some unity. Maybe give the fans something positive." Kirk nodded. "I'm with that." They also discussed bringing in local vendors and making it feel like a block party. Mendeecees remained silent for a while before speaking. "I already bled out on camera." Kirk leaned forward. "Have you spoken to Yandi yet?" Mendeecees shook his head. "You think the fans want unity? They want blood. I want to see who breaks first." Scrappy looked around awkwardly. Yeah, the drama always hits, but we can't give them all pain all the time. It's too late for that. I'm not sleeping, I'm not thinking clearly, and I feel like everything I built is falling apart. Scrappy put a hand on his shoulder and said, "Listen, you messed up by not telling her. That's facts. And if your foundation is real, she'll come back. Don't give up on fixing it." Mendeecees didn't answer, but his eyes spoke for him. He was unsure if there was anything else that needed to be fixed. Meanwhile, Yandi was staying with a friend across town. She had distanced herself from everything, including social media, group chats, and filming. She needed quiet to think and breathe, but her thoughts were loud and unrelenting. And she kept replaying that conversation in the parking lot in her mind. His hesitation and the way he looked at her as though he had failed her, the fact that he didn't try to explain it away with a light, was more that he told the truth too late than if he had simply denied it outright. The producers contacted Yandi later that day to ask if she would be willing to film a one-on-one confessional. But she declined, saying she wasn't ready, and honestly, she wasn't. She tried to console her by saying, "You're allowed to be mad." And Yandi sighed, "You're allowed to step away." I keep asking myself, what else don't I know? What else did he leave buried because he thought I couldn't handle it? Her friend responded, "You'll only know if you ask him." And no camera crew could record the kind of healing she required. Back on set, a producer pulled Mendeecees aside and said, "We need to ask, would you be open to a sit-down with Erica? Not for confrontation, but for closure. Just talk. Get everything on the table." Mendeecees laughed dryly. "You want me to sit down with the same person who tried to blow up my family for ratings? We think it would give you a chance to clear the air, give the audience context, and maybe even get your truth out." He paused, thought for a moment before slowly nodding. "Okay, but if she goes low, I'm walking out again. Not doing this for TV, I'm doing it to end it." The scene was set up in a private room with only 2 chairs, 2 glasses of water, and the bear. There was very little crew present. Erica arrived looking composed and well-groomed, and he was already seated with his arms folded. Body language, tense and eyes fixed on her, as if she were a storm he was preparing for. She sat down and let out a breath. "So here we are," she said. He repeated, "Here we are. Was it worthwhile? Mean telling the truth?" She blinked. "Nah," he replied. Using it to burn down my house." They sat in silence for a while before Erica leaned in and said, "You think your house burned because of me? Your house burned because you left matches lying around and hoped no one struck one." He shook his head, stating, "No, I think you've been waiting for a moment to get back at everybody you felt didn't ride for you. And you picked me because you thought I wouldn't fight back. You didn't fight. You walked away because if I stayed, I would have said something I couldn't take back." He sighed. "Our past isn't perfect, but our love is real, or at least it was." She nodded slowly. "Then maybe you should have told her the truth before I did." He looked down, his voice low, and said, "Yeah, maybe I should have. I don't have a beef with Yandi, but I brought it up because I'm tired of the fake perfect couple narrative. You guys always act like you're untouchable, like your past doesn't stink. It wasn't forgiveness, it wasn't peace, but it was a PA crack in the wall where understanding tried to get through." After the shoot, Mendeecees left on his own without even turning around. And Erica appeared uncertain for the first time in days, as if she had received what she had requested, but not in the way she had anticipated. Meanwhile, across the city, Yandi sat with her phone in hand, watching the clip they sent her from the sit-down. Her face remained the same, but her eyes. Mendeecees sat in his kitchen with the sun streaming in through the window, but the warmth did nothing. His phone was face down on the table, untouched for hours. No texts, no calls, especially not from Yandi. And every second that went by made that silence louder, deeper, and more agonizing. The next day came heavy, but not because of the weather or his job, but because of silence, the kind of silence that envelops you like a question mark. Believed that this meeting with Erica would provide some sort of relief, perhaps even atonement. He had entered the room seeking clarity, not sympathy, and as he left, he felt empty and hollow. As if telling the truth didn't make things better, but only made the damage irreversible. Yandy, on the other side of town, wasn't doing much better. Having spent the night watching that footage at least 10 times, each time concentrating on a different aspect of Mendeecees' appearance when he spoke about her, the crack in his voice, the regret in his eyes, and the way his heart still ached for him in spite of everything. She stared at the screen again, his words echoing in her ears. Our past isn't perfect, right? But our love is real. She wasn't sure whether to believe it or run from it. The producers had been hovering around them both, wondering if Mendeecees would quit completely or if Yandy would return to film. But that afternoon they were taken by surprise when Yandy showed up on time. There was no warning, no glam squad, just Yandy being naturally quiet and focused. When they saw her, Bambi and Scrappy stopped their mid-con conversation and she got up first. Yandandy smiled slightly and said, "I'm okay, or at least I'm trying to be." Scrappy scratched his head and said, "Are you sure you want to be back in all this?" She nodded. "I didn't come to be part of the mess. I came to close my chapter on it. In about 10 minutes, they will be filming with Mendeecees." "He doesn't." "No, you're," Yandy said. "I'm not here to surprise him. I'm here to talk like adults, cameras or not." In the meantime, Mendeecees was in the confessional room, trying to keep his responses guarded but honest as he answered questions from producers about trust, Yandy, Erica, and how it all fell apart. One of the producers asked, "Do you think she forgive?" Mendeecees looked down. "I don't know. Maybe not. But if she doesn't, I won't blame her." The interview was cut short by a knock on the door and a producer whispered something. Mendeecees froze for a moment before slowly getting up when he entered the lounge and saw Yandy sitting by herself. Everything else faded away, including the cameras, lights, and tension, and he walked over to sit opposite Yandy before slowly getting up. When he entered the lounge, he said, "It's Anne sitting there along yonder, sitting there alone every day to see we have Yandy, Wandy gang. I call with slice one me while we lack core at 6. I hate one. I can you see, we see with you, to see with you. I get Yandy. Why beat him to it? I saw the clip. I assumed you didn't stand up for me." He nodded, and his eyes grew wide. "What? When she came to get me, did you not inspect her? Not? Once you allowed her to speak as if I were a naive wife in a fairy tale. Truth's not enough, Mendeecees. Truth without action is just noise." Yandy leaned back. "I told the truth and left it there. I didn't defend because I didn't want to lie. If I snapped, I'd appear guilty. If I remained silent, I looked weak. I need to know that you will never allow someone to use your past as a weapon again. I need to know that if we're going to rebuild, we're starting with bricks of honesty, not shame. You got that?" he asked, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees. "Then tell me what action you need." She stared at him for a long moment. They sat there in silence, but this time it wasn't uncomfortable. Promises don't mean much. "Right now, then let me show you." She smiled slightly, but it didn't reach her eyes. One of the producers in the control room leaned over and remarked, "This is the realest moment we've caught all season." As they watched the feed and whispered to one another, it was just as if something had cracked just enough to let light in. And they were correct because there was no screaming or mayhem. It's just two people attempting to reunite after becoming separated by the commotion. Outside the lounge, Erica was dressed in glam once more, acting indifferent. But she was upset because she saw Yandandy arrive and noticed how people stared at her afterwards. As if the storm had subsided and she was still hurling lightning. She rolled her eyes when the assistant asked if she was ready for her scene. The producer set up a final group dinner scene for the evening, which included Mendeecees, Yandy, Scrappy, Bambi, and yes, Erica. They knew it was risky, but they also knew that if it became emotional again, it would be explosive and that's what reality TV thrived on. The scene was set up at a fancy restaurant downtown with wine glasses, low lighting, and cameras hidden behind plants. It looked classy, but the energy was still high. Yand sat next to Mendeecees. Bambi sat with Scrappy, and Erica sat across from them all, seemingly unconcerned, but obviously looking around the room. Everyone nodded, including Erica. Then Yandy looked up and said, "I have something to say." All eyes turned, and she said calmly, "What you did was wrong." It was awkward at first, but eventually Scrappy broke the ice by saying, "I know we've all been through some asterisk tea lately, but maybe we can use tonight to breathe, not battle. But I'm not going to let you be the author of my pain." Yandy went on, "I'm still standing. My family is still standing, and I will protect it from your drama." Mendeecees reached over and took her hand. "And I'll protect it too." Erica remained silent, but he said, "Not because you exposed something. I can handle the truth." After the dinner, everyone went their separate ways, and for the first time in days, Mendeecees and Yandy drove off together. He didn't say much,